terrifying fall from Gable Tostee's 14th story balcony. And now a jury must decide whether the part Tostee played in her death constitutes murder. Earlier on that night in August 2014, Tostee and Wright drank and slept together. But then events took an ugly turn. There were accusations of violence.
I will destroy your jaw.
The defence said the 26-year-old Wright became increasingly erratic and assaulted Tostee by throwing ornamental stones and finally hitting him with a telescope. The prosecution said Tostee flipped, choking Wadena Wright for up to 45 seconds. It said Wright's panicked screams leave no question about her fear. And that Tostee, even though he'd locked himself inside before she fell, was just as much responsible for her death as if he'd pushed her.
I might have a bit of a situation. I forced her out on the balcony and I think she might have jumped off.
The defence said Tostee was legally entitled to restrain her and force her out onto the balcony to protect himself. Both the prosecution and defence agreed the audio Tostee recorded on his phone is the key to unlocking the case. Justice John Byrne warned the jury that details of Tostee's behaviour after Wright fell, such as going to buy pizza and walking the streets, were only provided as context, and that Tostee choosing not to give evidence was not an admission of guilt. The judge also said the jury had to decide whether Tostee's restraint of Wright amounted to intimidation. The judge also said the jury had to decide whether Tostee's restraint of Wright amounted to intimidation. If they decided it did, then there were two questions. Firstly, was Wright's decision to climb up on the balcony a reasonable reaction to Tostee's intimidation? And secondly, would a reasonable person using that force have foreseen that she'd fall to her death? Sophie Lowry, Prime News.
Wendy, the jury retired to consider its verdict at around 3:30 New Zealand time, but before it went, it was given considerable direction by the judge in this case. We know the audio of the night Wadena Wright and Gable Tostee spent together is key to both arguments in this case. It is gripping and it is incredibly difficult to listen to. The jury was told it must put hindsight aside when it's listening to that audio. In fact, Justice Byrne quoted a Hollywood director, Billy Wilder, telling the jury hindsight is only 20/20. The jury was also told not to base its judgment on Gable Tostee's actions in the hour following Wadena Wright's death. There was that walk around Surfers Paradise. There was that stop to eat pizza. The jury was told that it shouldn't consider that as evidence of guilt, that it was only provided in court as context.
OK, Ruth, how has the accused Gable Tostee been looking in all this?
Gable Tostee was once again incredibly calm and under control as he arrived at court with his lawyer this morning. A big focus of the judge's address to the jury this morning was the issue of intent, whether Tostee is convicted of murder, of manslaughter or of anything at all rides on whether he intended to harm Ms. Wright.